Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning. Right now at 5, the FDA could grant final emergency use approval for Pfizer and Biontex vaccine as early as today. The latest on preparations to distribute it coming up.
The last-ditch effort to get the Supreme Court to overturn election results in the president's favor as the deadline for the Electoral College to finalize the decision closes in.
For one night only, they saw their love in lights, but this relationship has real staying power. Their secret to making it last. This is Friday, December 11th, 2020. Good morning, 5 a.m. Good to have you with us. I'm Maddie Jansen along with Alex Osher. A great story to leave you with a smile on this Friday. We'll have that coming up from Taylor in just a moment. And we have a lot to get to this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. Kevin is standing by this morning at home, giving us our forecast on this finally Friday as we head into the weekend. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning, Alex. Good morning, Maddie. And good morning to you at home. And a nice morning out there under clear skies for most of Kern County. A little bit of cloud cover out in the desert, but that is about it. As we show you the satellite and radar right now, you can see some of those clouds out near California City, out along the 58 if you're headed that direction. Let's talk temperatures. And right now, Bakersfield sits at 40 degrees under a calm wind. And as we take a look at the numbers today, we will be in the upper 50s, expecting to be right near 59. And then as we take a look at Tehachapi, starting out chilly, 32 degrees, a west wind at 7. And as we take a look at the winds, the strongest of the winds right now through the Mojave Desert along the 58 and then over the Grapevine as well. We still have the wind advisory in place until this afternoon, right at noon. We'll see if we extend that, but that's what we're looking at right now for most of the Kern County area in the mountains and the desert. For the mountains today, temperatures will be rising right near 50 degrees. We do have a change on the way. It looks like Mother Nature is going to try her hardest to bring maybe some light rain to Kern County. I'll have more details on that coming up in just a few minutes. Back over to you.
Oh boy, Kevin, fingers crossed. Well, this morning the FDA could grant full emergency use approval for Pfizer's and Biontech's vaccine. An FDA advisory panel voted 17-4 yesterday to authorize emergency use for people over the age of 16. Some of the experts who voted against it argued the recommendations should be limited to people 18 and up because of what they called thin evidence on safety in 16 and 17-year-olds. Meantime, the same panel will meet to consider Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine next week. Tracy Potts has the latest on that. Plus, states respond to a last-ditch effort to change election results.
Alex, good morning. Good morning, everyone. An FDA panel has given its okay. Now we're awaiting final word from the agency on whether this vaccine is a go. Another day of record COVID infections and deaths.
We've never had to treat so many sick patients at the exact same time.
As the FDA weighs the recommendation from its advisors to approve Pfizer's vaccine.
So we do have a favorable vote.
Despite new concerns about allergic reactions.
We saw no serious allergic reactions.
PrEP kits, masks, syringes, PPE are already being shipped nationwide. Pfizer sending nearly 3 million doses in the first week, protected by U.S. Marshals, to every state based on population. Back in Washington, there's no agreement yet on financial relief.
We cannot leave here without having a piece of legislation.
A lot of Americans simply cannot afford to wait.
More than 100 Republicans are backing the long-shot Supreme Court case led by Texas to change election results.
If they have wisdom and if they have courage, we're going to win this election.
Pennsylvania told the court that Texas has no standing to challenge what happened in another state. The Electoral College votes Monday to finalize election results. I'm Tracy Potts, 17 News.
And that is the subject of today's 17 interactive feedback poll. Today we are asking you, would you vaccinate your teenager? You can press 1 for yes, 2 for no. All you have to do is call our interactive feedback phone line. The number is 661-888-4617, and we'll share some of your results and have a look at some of your comments coming up a little bit later today. Now, yesterday, 2 records were shattered in Kern County as coronavirus cases continue to surge. Those records, most cases in a single day, and our daily average. and it just shows coronavirus is running more rampant in our community than in the summer. So here's a look at our daily cases, and you can see right here where we are right now. You can see that yellow star is our daily average, and if you drag that line over, you can see we're above our previous peak for daily average of cases. So we're already seeing the coronavirus running more rampant in our community now than our worst days during the summer months. And as you can see, as we go over to the second bigger surge, you can see that we're still going up, which means that this virus is not slowing, which means that our health officials who warned that this was going to happen are of course correct here. So our current average right now, 667 people testing positive for coronavirus every day in Kern County. Our highest single day peak was on December 3rd so far, when we saw 886 people test positive for coronavirus on that day. Now, the big concern is our hospitalization. So let's take a look at our curve here, and you can see where we're headed right now. We're already up here right now. According to our state health department, we have 238 people in the hospital in Kern County with coronavirus. That does not necessarily mean all local residents. That just means that there are 238 people, because sometimes people from other counties can go into Kern County for hospital care. That is not necessarily residents. It just means 238 people are in a Kern County hospital bed, and have tested positive for coronavirus right now. Take a look at our ICUs. 52 people in the ICU right now. The reason why that's significant is because you can see we are starting to go up a little bit here. However, if you look at our last surge, look how it was significantly higher in the summer months. Our worst day with ICUs was 87 people on August 7th. Now, the reason why I show you this curve right here is you can see that our peaks for hospitalizations were about a month after our peaks for cases. And our health officials talk about how sometimes what we typically see is cases go up, then later on we see hospitalizations and ICUs, and then deaths follow, go up later. So there's a little bit of a lag time, of course. So we will continue to follow these numbers as well, because they do change every day. By the way, we'll have another update today coming up at 10 a.m.
All right, thanks, Alex. And the Kern County Latino COVID-19 Task Force is once again helping people test for free. Here is the testing site at the Lamont General Store today from noon to 4 p.m. Tomorrow's testing site will be outside of the Mechanics Bank branch near the corner of Stockdale and California. Walk-ins are welcome. Meantime, if you're a local business owner, today's the last day to get your hands on COVID-19 financial relief. The deadline to apply for the B CARES grant is today. Originally approved for $3 million. City officials announced $2 million was added this week. Businesses that were negatively impacted by the pandemic earned $5 million or less last year and have 25 or fewer employees are eligible for the grant. Anyone interested in applying for the grant funding, which does not need to be repaid at any point, can visit bakersfieldcity.us.
In education news this morning, the California State University system has announced an anticipated return to primarily in-person courses for the fall 2021 term. In a statement, CSU Bakersfield said it will begin the process of preparing for a return to campus life immediately. In announcing the decision, both Chancellor White and Chancellor-Select Castro noted that campuses need ample time to build a framework for in-person classes after what will be several semesters of continued distance learning.
And despite an anticipated return to classes, local sports took another hit yesterday as the Big West Conference canceled its fall sports competitions for the 2020-2021 academic year. The cancellation means Cal State Bakersfield's men's and women's soccer, cross-country, and indoor volleyball games will not be played. The Big West Conference Board of Directors says it determined playing sports was not feasible given the state of the coronavirus pandemic. A statement from CSUB says we'll continue to plan for and work toward ultimate goal of returning all of our scholar athletes back to competition as soon as possible. A look at news around the nation now as Time Magazine named Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as its Person of the Year for 2020. The magazine selected the president-elect and vice president-elect as the individuals its editors felt most influenced the world during a turbulent year. Person of the Year is a designation that's not necessarily an honor or award, but representative of the influence the person has had on the news within the past year. Times editor-in-chief says it's the first time a vice presidential pick has been on the cover and that the ticket represents something historic at a time when they will inherit a divisive country filled with numerous problems. Harris will become the nation's first female vice president and the first one of color as well. During these dark times, there is one bright spot bringing people together, virtually that is. Of course, the holiday of Hanukkah. Yesterday evening, Jews marked the first night of the 8-day celebration. 17th Eitan Wallace joins us now with a look at how Kern's Jewish community is celebrating this year.
Indeed, Hanukkah is a bright spot. It's known as the Festival of Lights after all. And while celebrations across the world and right here in Kern County will look different this year, the message of optimism and miracles is not going anywhere. The light shined bright at the nation's capital Thursday evening on what was the first night of Hanukkah 2020. Jews around the world celebrate the holiday, commemorating the rededication of the Second Temple in Jerusalem in the 2nd century BCE. That's when they believe the miracle of the oil occurred, when enough oil to light the temple for just one night lasted for 8 nights. Something the Jewish faith considers a miracle. Fast forward 2,000 years.
We're encouraging everyone to light the menorah.
Rabbi Shmuley Schlanger of the Chabad Jewish Community Center of Bakersfield plans to celebrate by lighting the menorah for 8 straight nights. A ritual he says literally and symbolically brings light into our world.
The state of the world and where we are today, the significance is even more important. That we light the menorah, we bring light and joy to our homes, and not only that, but we share it with the world around us.
And that's why the rabbi hosts a public menorah lighting every year, one that usually includes a communal gathering for food, song, and of course, light. But this year, the event will look different. Set to take place at the Chabad Jewish Community Center on Ming Avenue at 5 p.m. this Sunday. It will be drive-through only. Temple Bethel taking similar measures to ensure social distancing. Last Sunday, the community's annual Latke brunch featuring traditional sweets and foods was transformed into a drive-through, and the annual 8 Crazy Kilometers fundraiser this year is virtual.
I'm really proud of the leadership of Temple Bethel because they understand that everyone should feel safe, and so we've really been very clearly moving everything into Zoom. You know, you take what's hard and you make it into something sweet.
Something sweet. That is tough to find during this era of the coronavirus. But this rabbi says the holiday of Hanukkah reminds all of us, even in dark times, the sweet is always there. You just have to look for it. A reason why he says celebrating the Festival of Miracles this year is all the more significant.
It's perhaps, people would say in times that we live in now, the most important holiday.
Definitely an important holiday. Now, if you would like to learn more about Temple Bethel's 8 Crazy Kilometers or this Sunday's public menorah lighting at Chabad, well, we have posted that on our website, kget.com. Meantime, this evening marks the second night of Hanukkah. The holiday will last until December 18th. Wishing everyone a happy Hanukkah and Hebrew Chag Hanukkah Sameach, a time for all of us to be thankful for the light in our lives. In studio, Eitan Wallace, 17 News.
Eitan, thank you. The lighting of the world's largest menorah in New York City marked the start of Hanukkah yesterday, and take a look. The world's largest menorah stands at, get this, 36 feet tall and was certified by Guinness World Records. The lighting ceremony took place in Midtown Manhattan at 5:30 p.m. The first candle is lit on the menorah yesterday, and an additional candle is lit on each successive night until the 8th night. The menorah is fully illuminated.
ET Business Watch is brought to you by Grapevine MSP Technology Services, the Valley's leading IT service provider.
The new Xbox and PlayStation are hot holiday items, but they're sold out everywhere. NBC's Liz McLaughlin has tips if you're shopping for a gamer this holiday season.
The last console releases in 2013 had gamers flocking to stores.
We got it.
Now it's a race online to get the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5.
Anytime anyone has had any in stock for even a minute, they've sold out immediately.
Hard to get because of record demand for an upgrade after 7 years. And more Americans passing time at home due to the pandemic now classify themselves as gamers.
First, I wanted the PS5, but out of luck.
Some have had luck following retailers on social media to get restock updates.
It's pretty hit or miss. I would say more miss than hit is what it feels like to me.
Retailers say they're battling bots that are quickly buying up stock to post on resale sites, which is one way to get your hands on a new console.
I don't think a lot of folks are particularly interested in spending $1,000 on a new PlayStation.
Manufacturers anticipate more stock by spring. Meanwhile, some holiday shoppers need to consider alternatives. A gaming laptop could make it possible to play new games without the newest consoles. Or the Nintendo Switch from 3 years ago, now back in stock at major retailers. Mobile subscription services such as Apple Arcade are another option.
They're sort of like Netflix, where if you pay a couple dollars per month, you have access to kind of a library of games.
Ways for gamers to avoid potential holiday disappointment. Liz McLaughlin, NBC News.
Now, a game console shortage makes sense, but what about cookies? A cookie shortage for the holidays? Chalk it up to 2020. Campbell's, the parent company of Pepperidge Farms, warned it is facing a shortage ahead of its busiest season, and you may have a hard time finding the popular varieties like Milano and Chessman cookies. The company is blaming the increase in demand and a labor shortage, both the results of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. A report compiled by Top Data found American cookie consumption has increased 25% since the beginning of the pandemic. Not necessarily surprising. I'm one of the people who's probably increased my cookie intake. Last night, we learned of a suspicious death investigation in southeast Bakersfield. According to the sheriff's office, firefighters responded to a fire at a home on Cheatham Avenue around 6:20 last night. That's near Cottonwood Road. Investigators say a body was later found inside. KCSO says a person of interest, a woman, was detained at the scene, but the incident is still under investigation.
5:33 and an update now on an officer-involved shooting that happened earlier this year. The family of a man who was shot and killed by a sheriff's deputy has filed a claim against Kern County. The claim alleges excessive and unjustifiable deadly force in the death of 39-year-old Michael Lewis Sr. The sheriff's office released video from the officer-involved shooting that happened on October 3rd in Mojave. KCSO says Lewis charged at Deputy Jason Ayala with his hand in his waistband during a traffic stop. A sheriff's review board found Deputy Ayala acted within department policy. The family's claim is scheduled to be discussed by the County Board of Supervisors next week.
In your 17 Court Watch, the woman accused of drowning her newborn grandson finished testifying at a murder trial yesterday. Biontex Dillon spent more than 6 hours over 3 days on the witness stand, answering questions regarding her actions on the night of the baby's death. Dillon said she gave police a false confession in order to protect other members of her family. Dillon denied harming the baby and testified her husband forbid her from calling 911. The evidence portion of the trial is expected to wrap up either today or Monday, and then deliberations will begin next week.
Last night, the federal government carried out the first execution during a presidential lame duck period in 130 years. People showed up to the federal prison in Terre Haute, Indiana, to protest the execution of Brandon Bernard. Bernard died by lethal injection just before 9:30 p.m. local time. He was sentenced to death for his role in the 1999 murder of married youth pastors Todd and Stacy Bagley in Texas. Bernard was 18 years old at the time. His attorneys and supporters lobbied to have his sentence reduced to life without parole, given his age when the crime occurred. The Supreme Court denied a request for an emergency stay. Bernard is the 9th person put to death by the federal government this year.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.